starting any hobby, a lot of people say that your first projects are going to be bad. I went into game development thinking, hey, I'm gonna be the exception. Short answer, I wasn't. Now that enough time has passed, I thought of revisiting my old projects to see if I was onto something, or worse, on something. After playing through my first ever published game, The Tumble, a project built for a game jam, I thought, damn, this is good, but I think it could be better. And so, I wanted to remake the game in 3D to see if I still got it in me to make games. After deciding on a date to start the project, I waited until the day came. Before actually starting with building the game, I first had to plan things out to avoid headaches. First of all, one of the things I wanted to do for the remake was writing a simple story. So, I thought, what should the game's premise be? Since I wanted the game to revolve around the moon for some reason, I called it Moon Piercer. I initially wanted the game to be about the player traversing through a tall megastructure that reaches all the way to the moon, hence the name. But the idea was scrapped after thinking about how much assets I needed to make in a short amount of time. In favor of a more manageable scope for the game, I made it so that the premise would be that the player has to pierce the moon. For like, no reason at all, just that you have to do it. Now for the setting. Because I also needed to rush out assets, I had to choose a style that is easy to replicate. I initially wanted to go with a PS1 style, but I didn't really want my game to be called another retro slop. So, I thought of a genius idea. Why not make the game look like actual slop? Yeah, I know. So, I decided to make the game look like the child of both LSD Simulator and Cruelty Squad. I had an easier time with the gameplay side of things. The premise of The Tumble was that it was a rage game. Players are given 4 buttons to make their character move. The catch is that their character's movement is very floaty and that they need to be precise. So, I transferred that gimmick over. After planning things out, I opened my game engine of choice and actually started working on the project. The first change in gameplay from the original was that instead of using blocks for the character's collision, I decided that using a sphere would be better overall. For the camera work, I decided that using an isometric camera would be good because I didn't really have to worry about details, and at first I really wanted the players to be able to rotate their camera, but because of how vomit-inducing that was, I just made the camera static in the end. An issue with using fixed isometric cameras is that if something was covering the character up, the players have no real way of seeing their character. At first I thought that disabling depth testing for the character model would work, but the players still can't see where they should go. So the answer would be like to make the obscuring object transparent, right? Well, in hindsight, yeah, but I didn't implement that for whatever reason, so there's that. I then finished the day off by making a basic map layout from which I'll decorate in an external editor. And with that, the first day is finished. Most of the time today was spent on planning and mostly just doing random stuff. To start the second day off, I made a really simple dialogue system. It's done by making it so that when a player is near an NPC, it opens up a text bubble and cycles through all the lines that they have. After that, I continued on making the map of the game and I added moving platforms, which were initially pretty fun. Emphasis on initially. I also made a model for the player and I really don't know why I picked an eye for the character, but yeah, sure, probably influenced by my dreams or something. Also, I added this pop-up for when the player exits or completes the game. I thought it would be kind of a unique inclusion because I didn't really see it being used often. Finally, I started making audio stuff for the game. I mostly used the basic sounds from this DAW I'm using to make the game sound even cheaper. To back that up, I also produced a really awful soundtrack. Here's a quick sample.
Warning.
What you are about to hear will forever change your taste in music.
You have been warned.
Anyway, anyways, I don't really have anything worthwhile to mention, as this day was mostly me just continuing building the map and procrastinating afterwards, so I don't really have that much to say at all. Tomorrow is when I crammed in most of the game's content. First of all, I made some assets for the user interface with the sole intention of making it look as organic as possible. Initially, I thought that manually hand-drawing that 90s pre-rendered 3D aesthetic would work, but found out that it was kind of hard to imitate, way too late into development, so I just kept it as is. I then finished up the entire soundtrack for the game and made it so that each track plays at a specific segment of the course. Also, remember how I said that moving platforms were initially fun? Well, I removed the moving platforms because they were way too frustrating to play with in an actual playthrough. After that, I finished the base map and exported it using the built-in scene exporter and then imported it into Blender. I then got images off of Wiki Commons, and then I messed around with the UVs and made the map look finally, I finished the map. After finishing all the touch-ups, I exported the scene in two parts, a GTLF file and OBJ file. The GTLF file is going to act as the visual part of the map, while the OBJ file is going to act as the collision of the map. Do I think that this is a good solution? I don't know. It works, so probably. After that, I added a disclaimer at the game's boot up so that players know what they're getting into. I also made a short cinematic for the intro and outro of the game. And the last minute feature that really tied the whole game together was this hand thingy replacing the cursor. I did this effect just by setting its pivot to the index finger and made it so that its position is the same as the cursor. This is single-handedly one of the best features I've ever implemented throughout every project I've ever done so far. And then, I finally exported the project and published it at itch. Now you're probably asking yourself, hey, what does the game look like? Well, here's a trailer I made in like 30 minutes or something. Also, if you want to support me, just follow me at these platforms. Although I had a pretty hard time deciding on how the game should look and what the premise should be, this was a pretty fun project all throughout. When comparing this project with my two latest works, I'm much more proud of this one because it's not that boring to play through and it actually feels like a complete product. Now, how does it compare with my first game ever? Well, I think that both games have their own unique merits, being that the first one is more simplistic, whereas the remake is more absurd. But I think that this remake is just better because, well, it's a remake with 4 years of experience as a hobbyist to back it up, but that may just be my recency bias talking. To end this video off, I'd like to announce that I have a pretty big project coming up this month involving me remaking a popular game in a week. If this video pops off for some reason, I might revisit this project in the future to release it on Steam. But anyways, if you like this sort of content, please like and subscribe, and that's all. Stay tuned for the next one.